So when I say Team Canada, it might be the entrepreneur shooting the puck, but you need everyone else playing their positions all around them, or else you might have the greatest superstar in the game, but without a team around them, you're not going to win. My name is John Ruffolo, and I'm the founder and managing partner of Mavericks Private Equity. Before I founded Mavericks Private Equity, I founded Olmers Ventures, and the strategy behind Olmers Ventures was really a three-pronged strategy. And if I were to overly simplify it, it was in three different stages: how to help entrepreneurs get from zero revenues to 10 million, then from 10 million to 100 million, and then ultimately scaling from 100 million to the billion-dollar plus companies. And this was really all predicated on building Canada for the future. As an entrepreneur, storytelling is absolutely essential to your pitch. In fact, the best pitches that I've seen is, yes, they have a deck produced, but that's just really used as a resource. The real opportunity here is in your own words, not through an advisor or banker or some other agent. As an investor, we want to hear from the founder. And again, when you're trying to understand the motivations of what you're building, why you're building, what influenced you, was there things in your childhood or your early years that led you to this? And understanding this is a partnership. It's very much akin to getting married. You want to know who your partner is before you marry your partner, both good and bad. And this is the opportunity, and the way that we communicate best is through stories. And, ironically, in the technology sector, when we get so focused in on all of this technological innovation, at the end of the day, it really is the human interaction that really drives the impetus for investors to really want to invest in your business. Behind investing is really seeking and supporting the greatest entrepreneurs in Canada. And what I had discovered through all my years of investing was there was a common thread behind the most successful entrepreneurs, and they all had this ingredient of resiliency or persistence, and it included adaptability and intellectual curiosity. But it was really that resilience, because building a business is extremely hard at the best of times, and you run into obstacles constantly. And it's those who developed the strongest resilience usually was building this business with a purpose in mind. And the purpose was not about maximizing their personal wealth, but it really was changing the world in their own way. And what I discovered is, no matter what the obstacle was, nothing was getting in their way to ultimately achieving their success. When you're presenting your idea, particularly an early stage idea, to a venture capitalist, the truth of the matter is there's only a few things that are really resonating. Number one is, what is the problem that you're really trying to solve? And when they're asking you about, is it a big problem or not, the reason is that it gives you the widest amount of room to potentially solve that problem. Number two is understanding the approach to how you think you're going to solve that problem. The truth of the matter is, most of the time when I see a new product or a new software application, it never becomes the final product. So it's not so much what you have today, but how you are thinking about attacking the problem, and also, why are you attacking this particular problem? Because that goes again back to purpose, which leads you back to the resiliency issue. Once you figure out those two big pieces, really the third piece is understanding the founding team that you have behind you and what is really motivating you. At the very earliest stages, your financial projections and all that stuff that goes related. Yeah, is it important? Yeah, sort of. But frankly, your guess is as good as our guess. But you get those first three pieces done right, and you'll get the interest of investors like myself getting excited with your potential business. Right now, we're experiencing, I would say, the first change that I have seen in a long time about the Canadian cultural reaction to building a business. You're hearing this term now about sovereignty, and you ask, what does that really mean? These are businesses that are really securing the future for Canada and puts Canada into its own control. And we're seeing what happens when we don't think of building businesses that are firmly supporting this country. And what's happened is, and I'm going to use one example of food. You know, we're one of the greatest bread baskets of the world, and yet we do not really appreciate what happens from a food security or food sovereignty perspective. And it took COVID to start to people wonder, maybe I'm not going to get those strawberries in January that I'm normally used to. And maybe the security of our own food supply is actually important. What that might do, though, at least in the short term, is increase the prices of food, only because we will start to invest in growing food, whether it's indoors or outdoors in this country, processing it here, consuming it here. And now this industry is taking on a different significance to this country. There's both economic development, there is food security for our people, and then there's the entrepreneurial aspect to building these businesses. So Canada really, for the first time, is starting to recognize that sovereignty layer might actually be important for the future of this country. There is a difference between innovation and invention. We tend to talk about invention a lot, creating something where there was nothing else there, and that's spectacular to do, but it's actually quite rare when it actually occurs. What we're really trying to incentivize is innovation, which is far more broader. It includes invention, but innovation is taking perhaps business models, looking at one industry, how they do something, and applying it to another industry. It's taking technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, quantum, etc., and embedding it into your business so that your business is bigger, faster, stronger, and enables you to have greater customer insights. You haven't invented something new, but you were innovative in how you've run your business. But this is where the real opportunity is for this country, and innovation applies to every single industry, right from natural resources right to the most sophisticated technology companies. There's also a delicate balance of when you're leveraging innovation into your business, depending on the business. There are some businesses where being the first mover does have an advantage, but in many cases, it doesn't also. What you want to do is tread the fine line between being at the leading edge of innovation and maybe not at the bleeding edge. The problem for Canada is when you're at the bleeding edge, that may be okay if there is an abundance of capital. The problem with the bleeding edge is that if you've raised capital and you're so far ahead of the market and don't yet have product market fit, in many cases, the capital that you require is not there to sustain you in order to attract more capital. So when you hear investors say product market fit, what that really means is having the right product at the right time, at the right price, and they can actually see the customer traction. That is the sweet spot. Now, it's very hard as an entrepreneur to figure out, am I at the right timing? Am I too far behind, or am I too far ahead? And I would say the hardest of those choices are when you're too far ahead, do you ratchet it back? And I think the answer is you don't. but you hope that the market catches up to you. And what you start to do is that you really try to educate the market to help them understand that yes, you might be ahead of the market, but as a customer, you need to kind of catch up to the market. It's a very hard thing to do, but if you do achieve that, you have just built a business that is a generational type business. The future of Canada is really built, in my view, around our entrepreneurs. Our entrepreneurs is what's going to ultimately build the generational businesses that actually remain in this country. And the reason why that's important for everybody is if Canada enjoys more wealth, we get to use that wealth to enjoy a lot of the services that we frankly, take for granted, whether they be healthcare, education. So this is good for everyone. As a result, though, if you think about the entrepreneurs at the center of the ecosystem, what's extremely important is all the players in a economic kind of circles around the entrepreneur. So for example, me as an investor, my job is to support the entrepreneur by giving them the capital. But there's folks that are advisors, there's lawyers, there's bankers, there's the people that provide all the services to them. This is all of the economic spillover. So at the end of the day, if we can support the entrepreneurial class to build the great businesses here, and by the way, this also means government is one of those circles to enable them to be successful, not to be in the business of creating that wealth, but to support that. All of us together will lead to the future of this country. So when I say Team Canada, it might be the entrepreneur shooting the puck, but you need everyone else playing their positions all around them, or else you might have the greatest superstar in the game, but without a team around them, you're not going to win.